Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Chris McMahon, and this is my youngest son asleep on me. Today's video is going to be a treat because by the end of the video, you're going to know exactly how many carbs and fats you need to be eating for fat loss. Now, before we get started, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Give a thumbs up if you find this video helpful. Comment below with any questions you have. I answer all of them, and make sure you have notifications turned on so you know when my next video is coming out. Now, we're going to be doing a lot of mathing in this video, so you're going to want some pen and paper possibly, or if you just want to skip all the math, you want to watch the video, you want to have ideas, you just click the link below and get my free calorie calculator. That's going to tell you exactly how many calories you need to be eating in order to lose fat. Now let's dive right in. Number one, calories. The only way you lose fat is by eating a specific amount of calories. So there's no possible way that you can get fat from eating too many carbs or from eating too much fat or from eating too much protein. It's simply the sum of the calories in all of those foods together that can either put you in a calorie surplus, a calorie deficit, or calorie maintenance. Now, the calories in each macronutrient are important to know. So for protein, there's exactly 4 calories per single gram of protein. For carbs, there's exactly 4 calories per single gram of carbohydrate. And for fat, there's 9 calories per single gram. That's going to come back later, so we want to make sure that we remember that. Protein has 4, carbs have 4, fat has 9. That's why we want to, in general, have a higher amount of carbohydrates within our nutrition plan than fats. Protein, we're going to want up there too, because they're just lower in calorie, help to keep you full for longer. 2, calorie deficit. A calorie deficit is the only way you lose weight, which I kind of mentioned before. But if we don't know how many calories we should be consuming, then it becomes kind of hard and it's kind of like a guess and check thing. So the easiest way to do this is taking your goal body weight and multiplying it times 12. That gives you a rough estimate of what your calorie target would be for fat loss. Now, there are tons of different equations you can use for this. This one just happens to be one that I use with all my clients and has proven to work time and time again, because at the end of the day, calories are an estimate. We either have to estimate up, estimate down based on the results you're seeing week over week. That's why it's so important that you have other metrics that you're tracking outside of calories. You want to be tracking your weight in averages across the week. You want to be tracking measurements in inches. You want to see how your clothes fit. You want to take progress photos. All of those things are going to be very helpful as you move forward with your fat loss goals. Number 3, now we have to do math. Before we jump into math, I just want to tell you, the way that I calculate protein, you could see a whole video about it, how much protein you need to be having. The way I have all of my clients go about this, unless they're a type A person who loves math and loves tracking to the T, is I have all of my clients track their total calorie range. I give them a calorie range because it's easier to be within a range than thinking you have to hit one singular number. I give them a protein target goal, as in they get another range for their protein where there's a bottom end of the range and an upper end of the range. But at the end of the day, you can go over on protein so long as total calories are met and equated for. And then I don't give them a carbs and fat goal. The reason why I don't give them a specific carbs and fat goal is because I want them to have wiggle room. So long as they're hitting your calorie target and you're hitting your protein in grams, and if we want to be fancy, our fiber goal in grams, which is 14 grams of fiber for every 1,000 calories you're consuming, you're going to be fine. You're going to lose weight. Now, if we look at the spectrum of good, better, best, good would be hitting your calorie goal plus or minus 150 to 200, right? That gives you a calorie range. Better would be hitting your total calorie goal and your protein goal and your fiber goal. Hitting those 3, making sure calories are equated for. You will lose fat. The best is hitting 3 specific macronutrients. Now, there are 4 macronutrients. There's protein, there's carbs, there's fat, and there's alcohol. We're not going to be talking about alcohol in this video. We're going to specifically be talking about carbs and fats. That's why I was quick to remind you that there's 4 calories per single gram of protein, there's 4 calories per single gram of carbohydrate, and there's 9 calories per single gram of fat. That's very important to know as we look at each macronutrient, because it's going to help us have our range. Now, there are specific target ranges that we can have for our fat loss. I am going to pop this up over here. Let this sit here now because we are going to do some mathing on this side. So we need to figure out our macros for fat loss. So there are specific ranges that we can stick to for our fat loss that are going to be most helpful for us while we are trying to be in a deficit. In general, protein, you want to shoot for a protein target of 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. I have most clients stick to 0.7 and then also use 0.1 to give them a range. 0.7 tends to be easier for someone who is losing fat because if they've never tracked their protein intake before, they're going to be surprised at how low it actually is. So we can always scale up from there. Carbohydrates has a goal range of 0.3 to 3 grams per pound of goal body weight, and fat has 0.3 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Those are our macros for fat loss. That's the ideal ranges that we would be using. Now, the way we determine these macro numbers would be goal body weight times macros in grams per pound. So goal body weight times any of these numbers would give us our target macro range. That is a little target up there. Now, we're gonna use an example here. The example follows, we first need to know our total calories. If we have no idea what our total calories are, we are not going to be able to determine much else. So in this example, we use goal body weight times 12 to give us our calorie goal. So in this example, someone wants to be 150 pounds. So to be 150 pounds, multiply it times 12, that means they would need to consume 1,800 calories to be in their calorie deficit. We're going to leave it at that. I'm not going to give a calorie range because we're using specific macros here. And if we want to get the most out of the 3 macros, we're going to want to be within like 5 to 10-ish grams. So we're not going to have a big range here like we would normally, because it requires a little more effort and a lot more planning for this. So you have your 3 macros here. So what this means is you would take protein. If we're going to start with protein, you would do 150, because that's the goal body weight, times either 0.7 or 1. I chose 0.7 just to give them an easier time because this particular person has never tracked protein before, and for them it's going to be pretty challenging because they've never done it before. So why not give them a low barrier? Why not have it be a low-hanging fruit here? So it's 105 grams. So 150 goal body weight times 0.7 is 105 grams of protein. So that's macro target number 1, 105 grams of protein. Macro target number 2, I like to go to fat next because it's easier to do this. So because also fat is something we tend to want to monitor a little bit more because it's something that's easy for someone to go sky high with, especially if you are obese and trying to lose weight. Fat tends to be a macronutrient that is usually higher. So let's go for middle of the road here because the range is 0.3 to 1 gram. So I'm going to go with 0.6. So 150 grams, 150 pounds body weight, goal body weight times 0.6 equals 90 grams of fat. So far we have 105 grams of protein is your target, 90 grams of fat is your target. Now again, you can play around with these numbers. I just happen to find that it's easiest if you go middle of the road for fat, because we want to have higher carbohydrate because it's more satiating, more filling, and you can have more of it. And then 0.7 with protein because that's more than enough to help you get started. So then we have to actually figure out the rest of the math, which is why I really think you might want to check out my calorie calculator because it does all of this for you and you don't have to spend so much time doing it yourself. But, drop that marker. But we have calorie protein. So that's 105 grams times 4, because remember, there are 4 calories per single gram of protein. So 105 times 4 equals 420 calories. That's how many calories of protein you're consuming for the day. You would then move down to your calories for fat, which equals 90 grams times 9, because there are 9 calories per single gram of fat. So 90 times 9, and that equals 810 calories. Now, what we need to do is take those two numbers together. So 420 plus 810 equals 1,230 calories. So great, what do we do with that number? Well, now you're going to take the 1,800 calories, which was your calorie target for the day, your allotment, and you're going to subtract 1,230 from it, which gives you 570. So what does that mean? Well, we have our protein goal in grams, which is 105 grams. We have our fat goal in grams, which is 90 grams. So now we need our carbohydrate goal. So this 570 are the leftover calories we have, and we're going to put those towards our carbohydrate. So now you know the calories. So if we multiplied, excuse me, so if we multiplied our grams times the number of calories per gram of that specific macro, we would do the opposite here. So we would take 570 for carbohydrates and divide it by 4. 570 divided by 4 is 142.5. I hate decimal points for someone, so I round up because it's 0.5. So that would be 143 grams. So after all that mathing, what we were able to figure out is that your protein would be 105 grams per day, your fat would be 90 grams per day, and your carbohydrate would be 143 grams per day. If you were to hit those 3 macronutrients plus or minus 5 to 10-ish grams, you would be at 1,800 calories, give or take a couple of calories there, and you would be able to work towards your goal body weight of 150 pounds. Now that's a lot of math. And if you're someone who is not good with numbers, like I'm not 100% with numbers, if you're someone who's not good with numbers, doing all that extra math work might be unnecessary. Because 1, you could just click the link below and get my free calorie calculator, or 2, you could just stick with goal body weight times 12, and you could also just do your protein goal, which would be either 0.7 or 1 times goal body weight. If you hit your protein at the end of the day, and your calorie range at the end of the day, you are going to lose fat. Now, technically, it wouldn't be as fast as someone hitting all 3 macros within 5 to 10 grams. However, it's more sustainable for certain individuals. For folks who are tracking macros and being as exact as possible, those are people who have a specific look they need to get to. And that's just my opinion on this, but it's usually your actor who has to look a specific way, a physique competitor or a bodybuilder who has to look a specific way, a model, someone whose livelihood depends on having those macros be dialed in as much as possible. And if that's not you, why the fuck would you make it harder for yourself? So look, that's everything in this week's video, Fat Loss 101 for carbs and fat. If you have any other questions, you could just comment below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you found this helpful, and give a thumbs up if the video was helpful too, because that just lets me know that I should keep making stuff like this. Again, if you ask any questions below, I'm always certain to answer them for you. And without further ado, remember, you're one day away from getting back on track and one day away from realizing how fucking amazing you are.